bombshell FISA abuse memo could be made public as soon as today, much to the outrage of the Democrats and the FBI.
Republican Senator Rand Paul has been warning about the dangers of government surveillance. He joins us live right now. So you actually wrote a letter to the director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, saying what?
Well, you know, Peter Strzok and his mistress, Lisa Page, have shown that they were very biased against Trump. At work, they were discussing ways to prevent him from being elected, and they were talking about an insurance policy if he was elected, some way to obstruct or to destroy his presidency. One, you shouldn't be talking about that at work if you're supposed to be in law enforcement. But two, my question is now to the FBI director, do they still have access to databases? So there are these large...
The lovebirds?
Yeah, there are these large databases that have communications of journalists in there, of politicians, of businessmen and women, and really maybe just somebody has a relative in Lebanon. You're in the database. Americans. No one should be searching that, I don't think, without judge's permission. But now we know that, like what Madison warned us about, men are not angels, neither are women. And the thing is that people have the potential to be biased on either side. We know Strzok and Page had it in for President Trump. They shouldn't be allowed to search any database that has Americans' information.
What's in that database? Like all of Social Security or all of our text messages?
All your electronic history.
Potentially anything that's been a discussion with foreigners. It was intended, and the speaker was right when he said it's intended for foreigners in foreign lands, and I have no problem with that. But what happens is there's interaction. So if you send something to a correspondent in Fox in the Middle East and you say, we're doing a story on ISIS. Well, ISIS is a term. So now you've been maybe collected because it's about information. So you didn't communicate with ISIS, but because you have communicated about a subject they're searching, you get scooped up. But they have the ability to scoop up everything. So what I've told people, like Flynn's conversation, we record Flynn because we're spying on the Russians. But then we use that conversation to try to see if he contradicts himself in an interview. Think of your own personal lives and think if I'm the government, I come to you and I record 1,000 of your phone calls, private phone calls, then I bring you in before the FBI and say, what about that phone call you made 2 years ago? And describe, and if you don't describe it consistently, I'm going to put you in jail. That'd be a terrible world to live in. And I think that's, whether Flynn was right or wrong, it's not the details, but we shouldn't do that in America where we record people's phone calls and then ask them about their details of their private phone
I think
calls.
a lot of it is because if you have a mastermind with hijackers in America and they're going back and forth with bin Laden's plan to take down planes and kill 3,000 people, they want to be able to go, let's go find all the tentacles and rip these people out like a planner's wart.
And I'm fine with that. But the thing is that when an American gets caught up in it, what I've asked for is that information, one, is supposed to be masked, but it shouldn't be used in domestic crime. Because the problem is let's say you get an international businessman, let's say you get Donald Trump, and you go back 30 years with his conversations and you find out he didn't cross his T's and dot his I's on his taxes properly. That information was gathered on foreigners for terrorism, and there's no constitutional protection for them overseas, which I'm fine with, but Donald Trump should get those protections for anybody else.
But the killer who has had contacts overseas, he becomes a killer in one day. We have him in prison. Do you want to know who he talked to?
Yes, and I have no problem with that. And I have no problem with that. And everything I've ever proposed has an emergency exception in it, that if you think something's ongoing or active, it's the same way with warrants. If I come to your house and the lights are off and it's quiet, I can't come in without a warrant. But if there's screaming going on and someone's saying, I'm going to kill you, I don't have to call the judge, I go in. So there's always exigent circumstances that almost all of us agree to.
But unless you record it all, you're never going to be able to grab it.
Unfortunately, a lot of Americans get swept up in it, and that's just wrong. Senator, thank you very much.
Thanks, Senator.
All right. Coming up, remember.